Apologies ahead of time.
Thanks for the reminder. I just started the recording, and I'll before you need to leave, I think I'd like to skip ahead to the next slide. So speak up if we're coming into 5 minutes before you have to go, and we haven't gotten there. Just I want to orient you to what to do next. Thank you.
Thank you.
And where are you?
Oh, I'm sorry. Right now we're in Northampton, Western Massachusetts.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Julia?
Hey, I'm on caller. I'm one of the callers, and I'm on the computer, so there's two of me. Nice to meet everybody. I'm Julia Ho. I'm based in St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm part of the St. Louis pilot site, which is called Solidarity Economy St. Louis. We're building a network of businesses, organizations, groups, individuals who are trying to build and test out all of these different cooperative economic practices.
Great, thank you. I'll ask pilot site people to give some examples later in the presentation too. Thanks for being here. Kathy.
Yep, this is Kathy Shea. I'm just really interested in learning more about this. I've helped, put on workshops and not get paid for much, and I thought, well, this would be one way to get compensated as well as open up ways of doing other workshops so that people can learn more about different diversity, understanding each other better, and just whatever we need to learn to, be more sustainable and things like that. So I'm not the greatest with computer stuff, so I want to just do my best to learn as much as I can early on.
Great, thank you. Kathy Perlin?
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'm Kathy Perlow. I'm actually in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and I'm part of a pilot project with the Neighborhood Health Centers of the Lehigh Valley.
Great, thank you. Kenny?
Hi, this is Kenny Andrzejewski. I'm actually across the table from Kathy right now in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And I've recently joined Time Banks USA as a social entrepreneurship fellow. And I'm about 2 weeks into this adventure, and I'm just trying to better understand the landscape of alternative economies right now. So, of course, mutual aid network falls into that.
Great, thank you for joining. Kurt?
Tony, could you repeat that? You're a fellow with what? Say that again. There's a lot of echo between the two.
Yeah, sorry. I'm a social entrepreneurship fellow with Time Banks USA.
Great, thanks.
Great, Kurt.
Yes, Kurt Roskoff here from out of Milwaukee. I am a member of the working board of the Mutual Aid Network, and I'm very enthusiastic about how this works for and with people with disabilities.
Wonderful, thank you. Megan. All right, while we wait for Megan, we'll go to Becca Krantz.
Hi, I'm in Madison, Wisconsin, and I am involved with an organization or project called CORE that has historically been kind of about the relationship of consultants to nonprofits, but we're expanding and beyond that just to transformational methods in general to build core strength for community change making, and have always been interested in Time Bank and MAN as, is there a way to compensate each other for the time we put in and the people who don't necessarily think of themselves as professional consultants, but do all kinds of stuff all the time to support organizations. So I'm interested in learning more.
Great, thank you. Steve.
Yes, this is Steve Bosserman. I'm a co-founder of the Care and Share Time Bank in Columbus, Ohio, and we've been limping along as a time bank here for about 6 years, and we're ready to make the big step into an independent legal structure apart from having a fiscal sponsor. And along with that, developing relationships with a number of nonprofit and for-profit organizations here in the Columbus area, and it appeared on the surface that the mutual aid network may be one of those structures that we would want to adopt perhaps as we move forward with our plans.
Thank you. We're going starfish. Remember?
Oh my gosh.
All right, Tim.
Hi, I'm Tim Dalton. I'm in West Milford, New Jersey. I'm involved with the Time Bank here. I'm on the board of the Mutual Aid Network, the working board, and acting as treasurer and secretary at this point, and working on development of the Mutual Aid platform. And yeah, I've been doing this kind of stuff for a pretty long time, so it's interesting to me and fun.
Great, thank you. And there are a couple people we haven't heard from yet. I know Megan, we didn't get you, and then there are a couple of people whose names I don't see. So if you haven't yet introduced yourself, could you speak up now?
Megan sent a note in the chat saying, "Hi, I'm going to stay muted, but I'm glad to listen. I live in Western Mass and participate in our local time bank and mutual credit systems." Our credits.
Oh, good. I'm wanting to connect with some Our Credits folks. Okay, great. Anyone else?
I'm Pam Halton, and I'm interested in starting a MAN project in New York State, right near New York City, but north of New York City, outside of the city, in Westchester County, Putnam County area. We also have some interested people across the border in Connecticut, possibly, and there are a few different groups that we might be able to tap into, so I'm just here to learn. I've worked with several time banks already, so I'm pretty familiar with time banking, although I have not worked with the software that MAN uses, Weezer, and I have not worked with the same software that Dane County Time Bank works with yet.
All right, thank you. Glad you could join. Is there anyone else here? Oh, here's Edwin. Edwin, are you available? All right, and anyone else who hasn't introduced yourself? So thanks, Megan. That reminded me that I should inform everyone about the chat in case you haven't used this meeting software before. You have a control panel on the right-hand side. You hopefully see a microphone on the left side of your control panel, and if you click that, it will turn red. That means you're muting yourself, so if you're having background noise, go ahead and do that. And then at the bottom, there's a chat window. You need to click the little triangle next to the word chat to open the window, and so you can chat in there. You can type in something to everyone or to a specific person, and I won't tend to see it as I'm presenting, so if you have something that you need to get my attention for, you can speak up, actually. That'd be helpful, or type in the chat and wait. So my question before we begin with the overview is there anyone on this call who is not at all familiar with time banking? All right. I think a lot of us come from a time banking background, but that's not always a given, so I just always want to make sure. So, in general, I began the Dane County Time Bank in 2004 is when I really started looking at it again, because I realized that that we needed to really address some basics of our economy in order to be able to sort of replace the destructive economy of needing to have a job in order to pay for every breath you take and every bite of food you eat, and a lot of jobs available contributing to destruction of the planet, destruction of person, destruction of community. So I looked into different economic structures and learned about time banking, a form of mutual credit where we just exchange time for our work. It's very good for exchanging things that are infinitely abundant, is how we started seeing it. Things like care and creativity, civic engagement, community building work. Unlike money, which is scarce and difficult to get your hands on, and it's lent into existence, interest in time banking, we can choose to reward all that really abundant work that we know is essential to our lives and our society. And it's quite healthy that way. In our time bank, we've been able to facilitate a lot of activity with transportation and child care and elder care and restorative justice work. But it's not everything. And one thing that I heard a lot in the introductions is people sort of struggling with the organization of a time bank. So for me, a problem became that we had our whole system set up around the means of exchange, and the success or failure of what we were doing really depended on how much people transacted in the particular kind of currency, which is time, that we had created. And we realized that's not really what we're getting at, and that's not what we want to get at. So we realized the real questions were, how do we build an economy that creates and rewards abundance? And then realizing that we're not just looking to make a friendlier market economy that greases the wheels of commerce and finite resources. We really need to ask in service to what kind of economy do we want to make for what purpose. And then that's when we came to a conclusion that instead of being set up around an exchange like a time bank, instead of becoming a thing, that we need to make time banking a function related to other activities. So I need to meet someone. If you're on the call, do you know coming from your?
I could just mute everybody to start with, and then we can unmute as needed.
All right. Actually, I think it just stopped. So I will do that when we come back to it. I mean, if it happens again. So what we realized is, rather than setting up a nonprofit organization as a time bank or another mutual credit system or local currency, that it would make more sense, likely, to organize around a common purpose. And become a cooperative that then uses time banking, but also uses other economic tools that are better suited for other purposes. So we can sort of pull together into an ecosystem of sharing and exchange tools that can actually meet a wider variety of needs. As I already mentioned, time banking is great for those things that are infinitely abundant. It's not great for buying and selling refrigerators and cell phones and things like that that are coming from finite resources that might need to be made from materials from far-flung places. So we realized that we could form a cooperative around a common goal and then use these tools for the purposes that we've identified. And what we realized ultimately is we're looking to change how we approach work and really value all the variety of work that people do. So the mission for mutual aid networks is to create means for everyone to discover and succeed in work they want to do with the support of their community. None of those words are accidental. We really mean everyone, and we mean everyone around the world. And I'll explain in a moment what our strategy is to get there. And now I am gonna, okay. And then we realized that that creating a peer-to-peer sort of economic network with peer-to-peer economic tools linked with some real core values that are interpreted locally and upheld globally, we could really make an economy that does something really different. And the way I think about it is if you look at just the power that money has had to tear us apart and get people to do all kinds of things you wouldn't normally be doing, even just staying in a job you hate. It's very powerful, and it drives society in enormous ways. And if we created deliberately a system that's based on very different core principles and upheld them, we think it could have immense power to change how we interact with each other. So our core principles are here. They're laid out. You can find them on our website anytime. But they're an amalgamation of core principles from time banking, including all work is valuable and everyone has something to give, and we all benefit from reciprocity. But also principles of governance of the commons, about how we steward our resources together and set rules and boundaries that people are bound to and have clear rights and responsibilities. and then also principles of cooperative, the Rochdale cooperative principles about cooperation among co-ops. We have a principle about mutual aid among mutual aid networks, democratic participation, economic participation of members. So that's fundamental to mutual aid networks. What we really want to do is create a playground where everyone can really experiment freely with a lot of different approaches to this within sets of clear core values. So that was important to us to get clear right away. If anyone needs to interrupt me at any time, type a note in the chat, because I do have you muted now. So the problem that we recognize in our society is only one or two of the fundamental types of work are valued in the dominant economy. Going back to the redefining work issue, we feel it's essential to create something that really values everything. So we started working with a framework produced by a group called Flora in Belgium. A friend of ours, Ann Snick, provided this to us. And what they did was they interviewed women around the world, especially very low-income women. And over the course of several years and many interviews, they identified 5 fundamental types of work that they felt people generally engage in order to meet all your needs. So you can, the terminology may or may not resonate with you, but these are generally the breakdown. So first of all, productive work. This is what we tend to think of when we think of work. And productive work is what you do to feed, clothe, and house yourself and your family, provide the material needs for you and your family. So the way that's generally carried out in this society right now is through working at a job and earning money to provide for those needs, but it can also mean building your house or sewing your clothes or growing your food, but the things that are meeting your basic needs. Then there's self-work, which sometimes is valued in the market economy. If you think about a teacher who gets a master's degree and then their pay goes up, for example, or a musician who's practicing a lot and able to command a higher rate, or things like that. So some people in this economy can also cash in on the self-work category. So it's what you are doing to feed yourself, your health, your skills. Then there's community work, which we tend to know from helping our neighbors or doing a community garden or things like that. Caregiving, taking care of earlier generations, subsequent generations, people who are ill. And then this whole other realm of work of keeping the balance. And this tends to appear in a situation like the dominant economy where all these things are very out of balance in terms of what you can be compensated for and what you need. So it's a whole additional realm of work to keep the balance. Well, what we realized on learning this is we want the man to become the keeper of the balance. We would like to change it so this isn't a whole extra realm of work for people, keeping the balance. So here's how that happens. The mutual aid network, and we called it mutual aid network because because of the American phrase working for the man. We want to create a new situation where we become the man, and you can have your dream job and your dream life working for the man. Sorry, my slides keep jumping forward. So the way we do this is by integrating these different types of currency for different levels of exchange. So I mentioned time banking really being good for exchanging very abundant resources. A way to make resources even more abundant is through sharing. We very much want to create an economy that brings things out of the market economy and puts them back into the commons. So when we're talking about sharing, it can be something complicated like a makerspace or a fab lab where you have high tech equipment or machining equipment that people get to share and use and produce things collectively. But it can be also something very simple like baby clothes or laundry facilities that are shared by a neighborhood, or swaps or commons gardens. Tim can speak to this maybe later when we talk about pilot sites, but there's a lovely commons herb garden in Tim's location where he lives that people can just access medicinal herbs when they're part of that commons. So commons as the most abundant level, time banking as the next most abundant, where you're just swapping things like for like mutual credit that has a price on it. So businesses can use it for goods that you have to tax and you have to account for as cash. So levels of mutual credit that can be used for more highly professionalized services and businesses. And then community savings and investing pools, where we pool actual money in the dominant currency and manage it collectively so it can be made available to people for emergencies, can be made available to projects. It's up to the group that's stewarding that money. So with all these tools, we start to get at different levels of exchange for different types of goods and services at different levels of abundance. And I'll show you in a moment how we try to break that down to make it easier for you to see how you can meet your needs with these different levels of things. These other gears are about the social processes to help make it work. So one thing that sets mutual aid networks apart from a lot of economic redesign efforts is we really view it as a community organizing process and as a social process. So we're very focused on the mutual support and learning, and that's what this meeting is about, is really getting us into higher gear with that. So we help people learn how to redesign your work. We help people learn how to budget for the variety of resources you have at your fingertips when you're in a mutual aid network, and I'll show you this in more detail in a moment. Assist people in developing community saving and investment pools, and assist people in developing their ability to come together, identify common goals, identify the work that needs to happen to meet those goals, and then be able to carry it out and compensate each other for that work. And it looks complicated here and now, but the idea is we think it through, we do the complicated part, we experiment as the early core group of people who really already have some experience with this and have a lot of motivation, and then it becomes easier and easier for people in the near future to jump in, because we have all these sharing and learning processes, and we'll hold each other's hands through it and make it simpler for each other. So I'm going to unmute everyone for a moment to see if our people need to leave, and then also see if there are any questions before I move into the next piece. So I think it was Jennifer. Are you the one who needs to leave soon? I'm going to jump to the next steps. Just so you can see, and if you're here and need to leave, you might want to take note of some of these things. So we'll be bringing people on to join the Main Man Mutual Aid Network Cooperative, and in that you can be a member individually and just start playing with it. We'll start having office hours where we can answer more in-depth questions and have discussion about individual pilot sites or issues that people are running into. We'll have different themes at different times. Fundraising efforts starting. People can start working toward becoming a pilot site in your location. People who want to be pilot sites, we can connect with mentor pilot sites. We will be hosting a summit here in Madison, Wisconsin, and we're inviting people to join our work groups starting our February meeting. So you can make a note of these things if you need to leave before we go on. And does anyone have any questions at this stage? Okay. So going back to where we were. So some of the things, so I already mentioned about how we are developing ways to help people sort of reassess the variety of things you want to do with your life and ways you can be compensated. One of the things that I think is especially compelling about the way we're setting up mutual aid networks is right now, people, especially in Madison, are very familiar with this, but we have very segregated communities here in Madison, and the level of access from one neighborhood to another is radically different and quite obscene. And the way that people generally have to support a neighborhood in need is to give to a nonprofit that will hire someone to carry out programming in the neighborhood. And a lot of times that's all free. But we have very limited options for investing in neighborhoods that actually build wealth in the neighborhood. What we're creating in mutual aid networks is a way that a philanthropist or someone just with a little bit of extra spending money can put it in a savings pool in a mutual aid network in a neighborhood that doesn't have money. And that will go directly to that group of people. The people in that neighborhood who are members of that mutual aid network will steward that money in service to the goals that they have laid out. And it can go to support them in meeting those goals. So just in terms of creating a situation where people can invest right into a community, whether you live there or not, and give that to those people to govern is somewhat groundbreaking. But another thing that we can do, partly because we have good cooperative law and we're applying it in service explicitly to redistributing wealth. But say you're in a mutual aid network in your neighborhood and you work full time, you don't have much extra time at all. You make plenty of money. So we'll just like assign you an easy salary to work with math-wise. So say you're working 40 hours a week and you're making $40,000 a year, and you feel you don't have any extra time, but each week you could use 4 time bank hours or 4 man hours to get some meals made and get some respite care for your elderly parents. So I've just done my budget in the mutual aid network, and I realized I could use 4 hours worth of time bank hours instead of money to get these needs met. I can put 4 hours worth of my hourly pay into the savings pool and give that to the community to distribute, and then take 4 hours from the community time bank to meet those needs. So that way I'm exchanging money for time without putting a direct exchange rate on. And I'm freeing up more money for the people in the neighborhood who might not have access to as much money. This can work in a variety of ways, but to me, this becomes a really interesting way that we can start joyfully, voluntarily redistributing our wealth at a neighborhood level. Does anyone have a question about that? Okay.
I don't have a question, Stephanie, but just a comment that this is one of the more important things that we're going to be developing over the next several months is practical ways to use this budgeting concept, and that we're going to be looking for people who want to, start to apply this in their own life and to sort of model this so that we can start to really put together practical steps to meet their needs.
Yes.
So that in the general discussion of onboarding and when we get talking about what people want to get involved in, people should consider who's got, they want to just throw it out there and say, how could I shift my life from what it is now to different sources of sustenance and community building, and we can take some of those on as projects.
Absolutely. And that's a perfect segue because here's how we do that. So this is something that will be put into our software. So we have some software that we're using, and here's the stage that we are at right now. It's perfect time for you to join us. The way I see it is we have the very rough draft of every piece that we need to make this happen. And by make this happen, what I mean is I can foresee a time when we are each doing the work that we want to do in the world. And that's a variety of things. I'm doing stuff in my neighborhood. I'm doing some things on my own block, like maybe helping grow some food or helping coordinate the thing that grows food for me, even better. I'm doing some professional type skills, some of the things I like maybe I'll be doing some public speaking and doing some organizing. I'll be doing some music. I'll be doing some creative projects. I'll be doing some things for my family, for my own home. And I can be doing my work in the world, and we can be managing our projects as groups in really effective ways on our project management software, the mutual aid platform. And as we log that we've completed tasks that we identified needed to happen, my account can be filling up with the kinds of resources I need, and I can look at a glance to see what my budget was and what kinds of resources I needed to meet what kinds of needs. So I can see that I need to earn more man hours. I need to do something to contribute to the commons so I can access more things that are in the commons, or I need to use some more of my professional skills, or I need to work within my own mutual aid network to exchange the kind of resources that I have abundantly for the kind of thing I need. So it really just is a way to make all these things visible. But we have rough drafts of all of this stuff. So you can identify in your project, I need X amount of money, I need X amount of people hours, I need X of these kinds of material resources, and people can get a chance to contribute those things. They can offer them in reciprocity. They can offer them because they like our project, and we can see at a glance how we're doing on the various kind of resources we need. So this particular project view we don't have functioning yet, but we got from the Yes Men as a way that we'll be able to show what our project is. And then down here at this little bar where it says what your needs are, you can sort of track as you're starting to meet your needs. And then here's the tool that we are working with right now. Oops, I forgot to update it. We're calling it posterity budgeting now. So it's like your posh austerity budget. But what we do is break it down into all the basic elements that we could identify: food, space, wellness. But you'll see we also have leisure and investment in the future and giving and creativity. We really want people to be rewarded for being whole human beings. So here's how we use this now. You say, oops, how much you're currently spending, and then look for ways you can offset your costs with other resources using this sort of pyramid of abundance. So we start with the most abundant level, which is sharing. Second most abundant is exchanging like for like, exchanging time or exchanging goods as a straight up exchange. Third most abundant is a price-based mutual credit in businesses or professional services where there's a dollar amount. We pay taxes on it. The price varies based on scarcity and demand, just like it does in the money economy, but it's friendlier because we're exchanging goods and services for the principal and just paying taxes in cash. Then the savings pool, if you need money, is there a way that you can tap into a collectively managed pool of it? So I might have a savings pool for health care, where it might create an opportunity for all of us to just get catastrophic coverage for health insurance, so we pay less in premiums and have really high deductibles. Then we have a savings pool that we pool our money, and when someone has to pay an out-of-pocket expense, it could get covered from the savings pool, for example, a way that you can really reduce health expenses or reduce your mortgage by having a savings pool that pays down people's higher interest mortgages faster. Savings pools are being used in really sophisticated, significant ways in different parts of the world, and we're learning from them. And then in the level F, if all else fails, get a job. We expect people to continue to have jobs for a while, but if you can suddenly work half-time instead of full-time and still meet your variety of needs, then you're freeing up more paid job time for other people too. So again, these are ways that we can sort of take some control over how the economy is set up and how work is distributed, partly by just changing how we're working ourselves. So going back to the robust budget, we keep going back and forth to the pyramid. Okay, so now I see I'm spending $100 a month on food right now, but by contributing time to set up a food swap, I can replace some of that money with shared food, and I can earn some time bank hours that then I can use to build up my ability to do more of my creative work. Is this making some sense? About then we do it over the course of 3 years to see really how much over time, how much you can displace money and increase other resources in ways that could give you a higher quality of life with less money. And then we take a look at how the types of work we're doing break down in that sort of diagram that we had before, the types of work, and give you a sense of how are you doing more of the productive work than you want to be doing? Would you like to be doing more community work? And how can you do community work in a way that meets more of your needs? It gives you an opportunity to spend more of your time on it. Questions or comments?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Could you give an example? How would like a savings pool work? Would the money go into like a credit union, or somebody would hold on to it? Could you just give an example? example of how that would work?
Yeah, we are mostly thinking here that our money will be in a credit union, and I think most of the pilot sites that are talking about it are thinking that way. The JAK Bank in Sweden set up their own bank in this kind of model, but in New Zealand, that's where we are really modeling a lot of our learning. And they took the Swedish example and simplified it, so they open an account in a credit union. And generally in the United States, and we're getting legal support, that's part of what we bring to it through having the Maine Mutual Aid Network, is we can connect with people all over who can help with legal research, et cetera. So in the United States, it seems most likely that an individual will need to hold the account and then make a separate agreement with the other individuals of the savings pool. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yep, that clarifies it a lot better. Thank you.
Good. So those of you running time banks, I'm guessing a lot of you have a similar experience to me, where people get really into it, but including me, but use it very marginally because it's a different kind of habit. You need to go onto the website and find out who can meet your needs, and it's just a little bit more overhead and different kind of habit that people need to get into. And we just realized by incorporating it into people's budgets and making it really visible how it can meet your concrete needs, and connecting people in circles of people who have a similar incentive to meet their needs for real with these tools, that is what will get us actually using them. So that's a piece of it, is to make it very visible and show how integral it can be to your life. And then another piece of it is to really incorporate it into the fabric of people's lives by commissioning work from people, essentially. So part of how I envision it is we'll become a mutual aid network first with people who really want to do the thing that we're organizing to do. So maybe we're organizing one to feed everyone a meal every day on my block. So the first, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
I just want to throw in one of the things that we think is important to be able to offer are things like these budgeting worksheets and stuff, because what this does is it focuses your intentionality, and it helps you really project out, what very specifically you want. And I think anybody that's studied the way the mind works realizes that that's a key point, that if you can't get a clear picture of where you want to go, you could end up pretty much anywhere. But as you start filling out these blanks on the robust budgeting worksheet, you start really thinking seriously about, okay, next month I have to get this much credit, so I'm going to have to do something to get that credit. And it makes it a lot easier to, as you say, develop the new habits, because you've got this right in front of you all the time.
Yes, exactly. And what I really aim for, and I want this to happen in physical spaces even more than virtual spaces, but really aim for some easy ways for people to see the work that needs to be done. So in my neighborhood mutual aid network, we're going to man up the Social Justice Center, which right now is serving mostly as workspace for several nonprofit organizations, but we're going to create some mutualized space, some co-working space, and a swap that'll be a really free store. But we'll have like a dry erase board where every day, if people need something done that for time bank hours, it'll be written up there. So you can easily see at a glance, oh, I really could use some hours for this, and now I can go do this thing for this person, and just make it easy. But have that online too, so people can really easily see, if I really need 3 hours, I can shovel the snow on my block for this particular day and get that taken care of, and then we have a problem solved on our snowy block. And you'll see the reason we said space instead of housing is this can be extrapolated for organizations as well as individuals and projects. Anything else on this?
Stephanie, just letting you know that the three of us need to move off now, and really appreciate listening, and we'll continue listening to the recording when it's ready. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. And
thanks, Jennifer.
Yeah, that's Jennifer and Scott and Peter from Northampton.
Take care. We look forward to connecting again.
Okay, you too, and thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye. And while we're here, we have a few people who haven't yet said hello. So why don't we do some quick introductions? Is Numa available to speak?
Hi, Stephanie. Hi, everybody. I'm not sure if you're hearing me well because I've got internet difficulties.
Very clear.
And I'm with my cell phone because I don't have audio on my computer. So I'll try to get it fixed for Saturday, the other meeting.
It's clear though here.
So can you tell us where you are and what your area of interest is?
Okay, so if you hear me, then I can.
Yes, we hear you.
I can tell you. Okay, good. I'm based in Buenos Aires, Argentina, working with a new organization that is called Go Pacifia. We are trying to promote community currencies, and much of the stuff MAN is pushing for. So we are very happy to collaborate with you all and to be able to be in touch with all other MAN pilot projects. We hope this year to become more concrete in our projects, to go from the theory and the wishes into actions and implementation.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for joining us. Naomi?
Thanks to you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, hello.
Hi, my name is Naomi, and I used to live in Madison, and now I live in Aarhus, Denmark, and I have a project to make an app for food sharing. It's called Feed My Friends, and I also collaborate with an organization here in Aarhus that is doing experiments with alternative currencies and alternative ways of providing for oneself. That organization is called Test Trade Site. I don't know if Audrey is on the call, but I've been trying to encourage them to look into the mutual aid network for a while. They recently had a conversation with the Faircoin from Spain?
Mm-hmm.
So that's another direction. And we're moving back to Sweden, and so we're thinking about buying a house, and so we're looking into the Jack Bank, and I'm excited.
Awesome.
Wonderful. Great. Thanks for joining. And Edwin, would you like to speak? I see that you wrote in the chat. Would you like to say hello? So maybe you don't have sound. So Edwin says, hi, I'm happy to connect and learn more. I live in Kenya and participating in our local time. Good to all. Thank you so much for joining. And that's really perfect timing for you all to introduce yourselves because you all represent new places on the map. So this is where we talk about our strategy for making this go and actually reach the everyone that we referred to in our mission statement. So I am just going to take a moment to proselytize about the fact that we are aiming to create an economy for the 100%. And to be very explicit about that, I think there's a lot of value in messages about who currently controls wealth and that it's a very tiny, tiny percentage of people. But we are really explicitly aiming to create an economy that works for the 100%. And that means the people who are currently controlling the wealth, and that means the people who have never had access to any of it. It means the sex offenders. It means the people who are racist. It means the people who love everybody. It means the people who produce weapons currently, and it means the people who produce peace. So, and our goal is to create an economy that brings out the best in everyone and that brings people together as much as possible. But we also realize that everyone isn't meant to be together and everyone isn't meant to work together. And you'll see in our core principles, autonomy and independence are quite important to us. But you can have autonomy and independence and also be working in a network of mutually beneficial exchange. And part of the points of the core principles of mutual aid networks is people sign on to abide by those core principles. And that means that you are inclusive, and you are connecting in mutual benefit, and you respect others. But it is explicitly aiming to engage possibly everyone on the planet. And what our strategy is to work through local pilot sites, each site around its own purpose with its own autonomy, but abiding by the core principles and abiding by the agreements of pilot sites, which means that when everything that you're doing as a mutual aid network pilot site, you're agreeing to share, and you're also agreeing to engage in deliberate relationships of mentorship and support between different sites. Most of our pilot sites are rooted in an already existing initiative. Not all, but very close to all, have started in something like a time bank or a cooperative or a local currency that's run up against the limitations of the one tool that we started with and is ready to add more tools and more complexity. So we only want people to become pilot sites if it benefits you to add more complexity. If you have a time bank that's doing everything it needs to do and it's going well, you're good. If you have a community that has a really thriving gift economy, tribal culture, extended family culture, where people's needs are being met and people have an opportunity to engage and be included, you're good. We don't want people to add layers of complexity, for the sake of doing it. It needs to be something that benefits us. However, there are a lot of people in that situation. So our first pilot sites, we have 8. We have 6 in the United States, 1 in Hull, UK, and 1 in Bareneck, South Africa. Those are just the official pilot sites that filled out paperwork a year ago and have been working under that definition. Then we have a lot of new places exploring becoming pilot sites. On the west coast of the United States, in Vancouver, other parts of Canada. We have someone here today from Argentina, someone from Denmark, and then Sweden. I heard from Croatian eco-villages recently. Someone from South Korea has approached us, someone from Palestine. So we really are looking to engage people from all over this map, and then connect the different places in networks of mutually beneficial exchange. So the idea is to create networks of real trust based on closeness in geography or closeness in goal. It doesn't have to be geographically based, but then create networks of trust between those networks. So ultimately, we could all be engaged in networks of real trust. So what I would like to do is hear from a few of the pilot sites about what your focus is. First, let's see if there are any quick questions. Okay, so who wants to share a little bit about your pilot site and what you're doing? And if you want to say what your approach is and your focus, and then maybe a relationship or two that you are expecting or that you currently have with other pilot sites, and to share skills. Who would like to start?
I can start.
Thank you.
This is Julia. Like I said, I'm based in St. Louis. Our pilot site is called Solidarity Economy St. Louis. We have evolved over the last couple years in a lot of different ways, starting off really focusing a lot on kind of direct action and political advocacy work. We were, my very first interest in time banking and mutual aid stuff was in running a campaign to try and adopt time banking within our municipal court system. And that came kind of also coincided directly with the Ferguson uprising. And so everything that was happening in Ferguson, Missouri, after an 18-year-old black man had been killed by the police. And so there was, kind of in a lot of the subsequent protests and different actions that followed, we got really involved in trying to promote alternative economic systems as one potential solution for a lot of the unrest that was happening. And so since then we've gone a lot of different ways, and we've really tried to expand and really tried to kind of build on a lot of that energy that is still here, and obviously trying to address the very intense racial divide and segregation that exists here in St. Louis. And so what we're doing now is really focusing on building up our membership and really clarifying, what does it mean, what are our core values, and what would it look like for us to just immediately just start supporting each other in really tangible ways. So how do we start savings pools? How do we support our members? How do we help people incubate the kinds of institutions and the projects and the things that we need to see? For example, how do we support Black farmers here in acquiring vacant land and also in creating access to healthy food by building up their own grocery stores that are healthy and affordable. There's a whole lot of other things that we're doing right now, but in general, we're we're a really growing group of people, and I'm really excited and inspired by the stuff that's happening here, and kind of harnessing a lot of the creative energy of artists, of farmers, of healers, and entrepreneurs together to build the kind of economy that we're trying to build. So.
Thank you. Can I make a quick reflection on what I see in St. Louis?
Mm-hmm.
So I've had the pleasure of going to St. Louis a couple of times and visiting and participating in building of mutual aid networks. And it's very amazing what's happening there. There's so many different co-ops and efforts that have sprung up from the grassroots. There's Cowrie Collective, Time Bank, and then also Hosco Food Co-op and Citizen Carpentry Co-op, and the Solidarity Economy Network has been there. And it's just the thing that I see happening is that's so incredible is just the knitting together of all these differently focused cooperative efforts into like one really powerful system that I think could really change everything. It's quite beautiful. Does anyone else want to share about your pilot site and the direction you're going? Maybe Kathy, you could describe a little bit about what's happening there. Kathy Perlow.
Hi, I keep forgetting I mute myself all the time. Our pilot site is actually based out of our federally qualified health center, which is our neighborhood health center of the Lehigh Valley, and we were just awarded our third site. So our opening, we will have one in Allentown, one in Bethlehem, and one in Easton. Wow. It's basically going to be, most of our patients are either living on the poverty level or below poverty level. It's the FQHC is for people who many times don't have insurance. We do a lot of work with the immigrants who are coming here. We had been doing a lot of work. We were 3 years ago had it already planned out that we were receiving a lot of the people from Syria, which is still happening. So it's been an interesting project for us. And fortunately, our person who's going to be heading up the team actually was just now contracted through our FQHC, so she is a full-time employee there, no longer the liaison for the hospital Time Bank. So we will be able to officially pull away and start our own project next month. So we're really looking forward to it. It's going to be a way for us to be able to help the people in the community who really need the help. And we'll be very heavy within time banking, and a lot of the sharing is going to happen. So I'm really excited to be part of it.
Beautiful, thank you. And we here in Madison have learned a lot from Kathy, who invented neighborhood care teams when she was with a hospital-based time bank. And I think it's going to be really exciting to see what we can do with all these models when we're free to connect them with things like savings pools and other ways for people to share. Cool, and I will just describe really briefly what's happening with our pilot sites, and then we'll go into next steps and have some discussion with each of you about what you would like to be doing. So here in Madison, Wisconsin, where things are really taking shape at the moment. So our first pilot site formed within Allied Community Co-op, and Allied Drive neighborhood is one of the very segregated and economically exploited neighborhoods in Madison. So it's primarily Black and Latino, and there are about 4,000 households. There's no school, there's no grocery store, public transportation is difficult, there's no library, there's not a neighborhood center for the whole neighborhood. So Allied Co-op has risen from the neighborhood to really develop some community wealth generating opportunities. Allied Co-op has received some money from the city to work toward opening a grocery store. And right now we are just in the process of splitting the mutual aid network pilot piece from Allied Co-op, but with a very explicit relationship. And we're going to be now the Madison Mutual Aid Network, and we will work in Allied Drive to continue developing a model for a savings pool that could sustain a neighborhood resource center and really create some economic community wealth generating opportunities. And we're also focusing in my neighborhood, the Willie Street neighborhood, on the Social Justice Center, which I already mentioned. It's been a workspace for nonprofits to share, but we're going to start making more common space, co-working space, an ongoing swap, and have the Social Justice Center become a much more high-profile, visible sort of laboratory for this kind of economic innovation. And an explicit part of our Madison Mutual Aid Network is going to be in really building up a mutually supportive relationship between the two neighborhoods, Allied Drive and Social Justice and Willie Street Social Justice Center, and really show what we can do through the power of cooperation between two neighborhoods here in Madison, one that's extremely resource rich, and the other is extremely resource poor in terms of like material resources, but in terms of experience and expertise and organizing, there's a lot for the neighborhoods to share back and forth with each other. So that's what ours is going to be. And part of why I'm ending the pilot site piece with the Madison one is we are going to be hosting a summit here in late February. And part of it is going to be really building out some of the things in our pilot sites in ways that people can participate and observe. But we're going to have people here from different parts of the country. Julia will be here from St. Louis. I'm pretty sure Tim is coming. Lansing, Michigan crew is coming. And our friends in from Cooperation Jackson and Jackson, Mississippi, we're building this summit around their visit here. So they're looking to become a pilot site and really share what they've already been doing. So you all are invited to come to that. It's one of the next steps. So, so here, oops, sorry. Every time I click on a screen, it just advances and I don't seem to learn. So these are the next steps to deepen participation, and they range from smaller to bigger. Were you saying something, Tim? Okay.
You just made me laugh.
Oh. So the very first thing that you can do is join the Main Man, the global cooperative. This is a link, but there's a join button on mutualaidnetwork.org. And to join, we ask for you to pay dues based on your income. $10 is the minimum amount we have on there, but we can work around it if that's a hardship. But we are looking to raise money right now, so your dues are very helpful. Joining the Main Man makes you a member of that cooperative. We're incorporated in Wisconsin, but it's open for global membership. When you're a member, you can say what you offer and what you request. You can participate in exchanges of time. You can see what projects people are doing and offer to help with different projects. You can use our software to manage your own projects. So you can join as an individual member. That's one step that's fairly straightforward. And it's a way that you can experiment with what membership might mean. it's likely, as I said before, we're in rough draft stage of everything. So it's likely if you join the main man and you don't live near any pilot sites, it might start off slow. It might take a while to find your active role in it, but that's why we invite you, the people who are motivated, to come to these early meetings, to be the ones who shape that. And then, as I mentioned, starting February, I will be recruiting other people working in mutual aid networks to help staff office hours. So we'll have a web meeting open in order to explore people's individual questions and go in depth with people. So I just realized, since we're having such far-flung participation, it'd be good just to have some standard times that we're available to have discussion with people. So actually, here's where I have a question for you. What are good days of the week? Like if we were to have 2 days where we have a half day staffed or a full day staffed, what are good days of the week for people to take advantage of something like that? Does anyone want to throw in suggestions?
I have a couple of suggestions. One is we should try to have coverage during the day and in the evening.
Yeah.
Because people are going to be restricted that way, and it also opens up more opportunities for people to work the desk who might have other activities during the day.
Great. And Chris, could you take notes on people's suggestions? I was going to put it on the slide, but I don't think I should right now.
I'm taking some notes too.
Cool. And do people have other suggestions about times and days for office hours?
This is Pam. I would say Mondays are not the best for me, so other days than Mondays.
Okay. Part of me leans toward Friday because it tends to be a light work day for people, but I'm not sure. So we'll have to balance between what people tend to need and then what staff of the main man are able to do and willing to give up in terms of free time. And the way I envision it is we'll have a web meeting open all day. We'll have different themes for different days. Some might just be open. Sometimes you can schedule ahead of time, but we'll also have drop-in hours. So there just might be times when we just have a web meeting open and no one comes, or people all show up to just answer or to ask different questions. That I'm realizing there's enough ongoing need to check in person that's worth doing. We also have forums on our mutual aid platform, so there are ways to have ongoing discussion there. And then we have a lot of project documentation that happens there. So you should be able to learn a lot from that once it's really going.
Hey, Stephanie, I just want to mention too that if I think the office hours is a real good idea for all the reasons we discussed, but also if you have regular hours, then people can check in that are working on projects with whoever's working in the office, and they're there, and you can contact them, you can call them up, you can actually do work while you're holding the office open, so to speak, and still be available for other people that might call in, and that can be a very useful thing. So I think it's we want to make sure that we get it somewhat organized and post who's going to be there so people can know when it's going to be the right person to hook up with.
Absolutely. Great. Thanks. So then also we really have to do some fundraising to do our next round of development and keep this thing staffed. So we have more software development to do. We have people doing a lot of work on this who do get paid some money and some hours. And we aim to have more infrastructure needs too. So each of our pilot sites will be working on raising money to meet their needs. We'll be working on raising money to meet the needs of the overall global infrastructure. And we always make our money go farther because we use our posterity budgeting tools. But we will, beginning February, have some crowdfunding efforts underway and some philanthropic giving campaigns and some foundation grants that we'll be working on. And so that's a way that you can participate, is helping share crowdfunding messages or contributing or asking other people to contribute. So that's something, again, that we'll be launching in February. If you have a project that would benefit from becoming a mutual aid pilot and that is willing to benefit the rest of the mutual aid networks, fill out a pilot site application. So all of this is available at our website, and you should be able to find it pretty easily. So the pilot site application, again, I referred to it before, it's quite in depth, and you do make commitments to share everything that you create and to partner with other sites in mentorship. The February Summit in Madison, Wisconsin is going to be February 17th to 21st, and we will do a lot of in-depth workshops and learning, and we will be having bigger public events. Will be part of something that we're calling the Resist and Build Convergence. So that's the theme, is resist things that drive us apart and cause us to have conflict with our neighbors, and build something that's different and cooperative underneath that until we can be ready to become the dominant system ourselves. Dominant in the non-subjugating way, I guess. I shouldn't say dominance because it implies someone being submissive, but until we become the global system. And then we have a number of work groups. So a lot of work has gone into creating this already. We have a technical work group that has been focused really on building up the mutual aid platform, but is also about connecting that with other kinds of technical, other things in the tech world. So having apps that connect with it, and games, making sure that the mutual aid platform has good ways to link with local exchange systems, ways to make it very user-friendly and appealing. So the tech work group, second and fourth Monday at 10 Central Time. The social and legal work groups are operating together right now, but they will split again. The social working group has dealt a lot with governance and how we organize our work, and the legal working group is about the legal implications and legal research needed to back all this up. The communications work group is about communicating all of this with the world, and also how we manage our internal communications. And again, all of these are subject to change and probably split into some subgroups. And then the financial work group has been about fundraising for mutual aid network efforts. It also is we'll have a subgroup that's about designing savings pools and building up the business models for robust sort of resourcing of projects. So all of these work groups, this is the current schedule, but they all are subject to change once we have new membership. I think the way we'll approach it, for simplicity's sake, is invite people to attend the February work group at its regular time, and then we check on the time situation. But we might try to manage some of this online if it turns out these times are bad for a lot of new participants. So now that I've talked at you for so long, I would like to just go through and hear, I guess I would like to hear from people. Maybe we could combine our next steps with a checkout of sorts so we can hear from everyone. And since we have a little extra time than we would need for a checkout, if you have any questions about what your next step should be, or if there's a particular one that you plan to plug into, why don't you share that? So we'll combine our checkout with what we see as our next step being. So Tim, do you want to start and say what you see as your next step?
Sure. Well, yeah, my next steps in terms of all this is I'm going to continue working with Chris on the platform. I'm working with John on some outreach to the advisory board, and also putting together sort of a unified reference for the sites so we can see the communications and everything all in one place. So I'm making a table for that. And I will be coming out in February for the summit, for the meeting, and so I'll be able to pick up things there. That's most of it, and I'm almost finished to get my new computer actually installed and up and running, so I'm excited about that.
Great, thanks. And for those who don't know, Tim Tim and Chris both have been working tirelessly for us to get our mutual aid platform really in shape for this, so thank you. Steve.
Yes, this has really been super. I appreciate very much the overview you've given. Clearly, my next step is going to be to engage with others in the time bank here in Columbus so that I can get them up to speed and have some compatriot activity rather than it just being a solo act. So my next step is beyond that is to go online and kind of see the information that you have there. Hopefully, I assume that this presentation would be something that I could access online and be able to use that as a talking piece with others who are within our coordinator group for the time bank, and see how we can kind of move forward with this. I don't know that we would necessarily be able to participate in the summit, might be able to, but I would clearly see us having some sort of a presence as an individual member at the least, and hopefully in some kind of a group form as well, so that we can kind of use the templates that you're developing here as we shape our forward progress for this year. Are you working with Bob Hogan and Lynn Foster by chance?
Yeah.
On,
Yes, very, very much. They were just here actually, and Lynn is coordinating our interoperability project in the tech world. So very much, thank you for bringing them up.
Yeah, they're very good colleagues, friends of mine. So I know they've spoken very highly of this project, which is another kind of a motivator for me to get involved.
Great. Well, it's wonderful to connect with you again. I remember from Starfish and the Spiders, and I look forward to going to Ohio in the spring.
Super.
Great.
We're looking forward to you being here.
Cool, thanks. And I think that Numa is no longer with us from Argentina, but Numa, if you are still on and want to say anything, feel free. You know, Numa signed off earlier and will join on Saturday. Naomi, do you have any next steps that you would like to share or any checkout?
I will share that I will share the recording of this meeting with my friends and colleagues, I guess, here in Denmark, but I can't. And I guess it's interesting that I didn't know that as an individual I could join the main man, so that's an exciting option. So that's what I'm thinking about as we close.
Great, thank you so much. Megan, I know you just spoke via chat before, so I don't know if you want to go on your mic or type anything. Okay, Megan will continue to tell people about the Mutual Aid Network and consider joining the main man as an individual. Thank you, and thanks for joining. Kurt?
Yeah, as I look at my schedule, you know, I'm hearing the confirmations on Saturday that there's stuff going on in Madison Saturday. I'm correct on that, right? That it's worth my travel to Madison Saturday?
For protest stuff, you mean?
Well, no, I had a note of like onboarding and stuff.
No, Saturday will be
kind of replacing that, or?
Nope, Saturday is another web meeting, and it'll be pretty much like this one. Yeah.
Oh, it'll be like this one. Okay, so I had a note as well as for Friday. Is the thing from weeks ago on Friday, is that a moot point and not happening? Or is there something Friday too?
Scheduled it for today instead. So earlier Friday was the day that most people had filled in the doodle poll, but then this surpassed it quite a bit. So we called it for today. So today and Saturday are largely similar. So you are good for you can be free to attend whatever kind of inauguration stuff you want to.
Okay, and then so other than that, my mind just wanders to the mom aspect of things with the social legal group, but my activities are just attending the work groups as much as I can for all of them. So.
Great, thank you. And I should have mentioned to everybody that we have gotten really good at keeping our work group calls to an hour or less. So when you do join a work group, you're not committing to endless meetings. You're committing to frequent but tight, short meetings where we get stuff done. We've gotten a lot of practice, so just want to let you know. Kenny, are you available to speak? All right, while we wait to see if Kenny can use the microphone, we'll hear from Kathy Perlow.
Hi. Yeah, Kenny's not able to speak right now.
Okay.
And I guess my checkout is well, you know, the work groups are kind of hard for me because those are my babysitting days.
Yeah.
So I try and get on them when I can. And Steph is right. They are very concise work groups, and they get a lot done in the short amount of time that they do meet. So hopefully I'll be able to get on more of them.
Thank you. Thanks for everything. Julie?
And I'm trying to see if I can get out for the summit.
Great. And so another thing is as we do these onboarding processes, we'll be sort of identifying who might be good matches in the pilot site mentoring world. So Kathy and her folks in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania have so much experience in the healthcare realm. And we have other pilot sites coming online that have similar focuses. So we'll be looking at who will be the ideal new pilot sites to connect with what Kathy and the Bethlehem folks are doing. Julia.
Good call, everybody. It's nice to hear some new voices. I'm going to be attending the summit, so that'll be my next big thing, and hopefully bringing someone else with me, and really trying to hone in on how we can meet our tech needs and get a platform that works well for what we're trying to do. And then other than that, I participate in pretty inconsistently in some of the working groups, so I'm going to try and kind of hone in on being more involved in that process.
Great, thank you. Pam Halton.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so one thing I would say is I probably cannot come in February, but I would be very interested to plug in as much as I can. So, you know, I don't know if that ends up being video or what, but or teleconferencing in somehow, even though everybody else is live.
Yeah, we try to make as many sessions as possible available online. So we'll do the same. Yeah, if we have sessions that have enough presenting and enough sort of central coherence that we can do it online, we'll make it available for you. So thanks for the reminder. Sorry, go ahead and continue.
And then the other thing I was going to say is, like, right now, legal is meeting with the governance kind of stuff, the social, which would be governance.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of interest in governance because I've done a lot of studying of individuals and groups, and so I don't know how many of you know, I've been trying to work with Edgar Kahn, who is the founder of Time Banking, and some other individuals, including Kurt, about how do we make all the time banks more resilient? What do we need? What are next steps? Like, and maybe going open source, maybe not. Maybe Lori had some great ideas from the Dane County Time Bank about being able to have time banks where they, instead of having to go into clunky time bank software, where you could actually have an app that automatically matched the people that need something with the people that could offer something, and would show up on your phone and have some kind of like one-click solution to connect with that person. So, like, things like that. And I have a lot of ideas about governance, a lot of stuff that probably the entire public needs to be educated on in order to get along better, because especially in the United States, we're not very trained to work as groups. We're kind of trained to be in our little separate families, in our little separate households.
Otis.
And I also want to talk to someone about like starting a man project in New York State. I have some ideas for trying to build a time bank, like build a local mini time bank, and then we've got a couple other groups that are already time bank oriented. And so I don't know who's the best person to meet with about that or when, but I would like to make that happen, and sort of share my ideas and have people knock them down or say, yay, that's a great idea, or hey, maybe you forgot about this part. You know, I'd like to collaborate more.
Okay.
So I don't know what the best meeting to do that at, but I'm throwing all that out there because those are things that I want to plug in with MAN and sort of go back and forth and see what people think. So.
Yeah, sounds like Tim has something to offer up there, and then it also gave me an idea of how things could be organized there. Tim, what did you want to say about it?
Yeah, Pam, where are you located?
So right now I'm about an hour north of New York City.
Okay. Well, I'm
New
in
York, Connecticut border.
Okay. So you're over there. You were talking Westchester and Putnam counties and things like that. That's easy striking distance for me. I would be very willing to get together and meet with you, and maybe we can folks in that have been busy in Orange and Rockland counties as well, and see what we can put together along that sort of northern tier there.
Yeah, maybe also by phone, like if we could exchange phone numbers. Kurt and I have been doing really well with like some mini phone meetings and stuff. So
so if the two of you exchange information, that'd be great. I'm gonna get us back into the checkout so we end by 11:30.
Check the chat, Sue. Okay.
Just so you know, I don't have the chat thing is not working for me right now for some reason. I don't know why.
Because you're via phone. So I can introduce the two of you on email, and that's part of why we want to pilot people to be on with the onboarding so we can start setting up mentoring relationships right away. And there's a lot,
awesome.
There's a lot in New York City too that we aim to host a gathering there sometime before the end of this year for sure. So yeah, we will focus on some regional development in a future call. That'd be great for you guys to connect. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, hook us up.
Also, I have a call with Mashi on the 23rd too. So Stephanie, if you have any ideas about New York or anything you'd like to do, get me that data before the 23rd so I can make sure that I tell Mashi on the phone.
Thank you. Great. Edwin, are you available to talk about next steps and checkout? So I don't know if Edwin has sound. And Chris, you have next steps you want to share?
I will just continue getting our platform, our mutual aid platform, up to snuff, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Wonderful. Is there anyone else that we have not yet heard from about next steps and checkout? All right. So next Saturday's call is going to be very similar to this. You're welcome to join if you want to. You'll hear a lot of the same things, but you'll see different new participants. I want to thank you all very much for being here, and I really look forward to working with you to make a new global economy. We totally do it. And I feel very hopeful, and you are the reason. So thanks a lot, and have a great rest of your day. We will talk soon. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Bye, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye. Wonderful.
Bye.